Hello, my name is Joshua Siefken, and I'm an Associate Curator of Education at the Stanley Museum of Art. The following video is an introduction to the art and some of the techniques used in the creation of comic books and graphic novels. Comic books and graphic novels fuse multiple art disciplines into a completed work of art. Art, writing, storytelling are all joined, and by combining these disciplines, it allows students to use different creative abilities to create artwork. One of the questions that get asked a lot is, well, what is the difference between comic books and graphic novels? Well, comic books are a paper or digital publication that tells a serialized story through artwork. Graphic novels are doing the same thing, but it's more of a broadly used term that describes multiple comic books being collected into a single volume, a miniseries, or a miniseries collected in a volume or multiple volumes. Graphic novels are also usually longer, larger, and print on better paper stock than standard comic books. This introduction video consists of original comic book and graphic novel art created by artists and then handed over to the publishers to be released as a comic book or graphic novel. But students get to see where the artist was making creative decisions, where dialogue was added, mistakes were edited out. Our artist changed course and went in a different direction. So in this introductory video, we'll be showing you some of these techniques and some of these very basics that the artist used to create comic books and graphic novels. So we will start by going through some vocabulary. So at any point you can come back and reference this part of the video. But today we'll be covering comic books, graphic novel, page, panel, speech and thought bubbles, and gutters. The majority of this video, we'll be using this as kind of our reference point. This piece of art is from Jessica Abel from her Art Babe series and a story called As I Live and Breathe. The first thing that we're going to discuss is the page. And so a page is the main media on which comics are created or graphic novels are created. The entirety of this artwork is called a page, and there are different ways and formats that artists lay them out. It can be as simple as squares and rectangles on a page, as Jessica Abel has done here, or it can be something like a double page spread. So this artwork by Mitchell Breitmeister and from the miniseries Captain America: The Chosen is a double page spread. And so artists will often do this if they want to show a larger view of something or show a panorama. And as you can see here, the artist wanted to show a little bit more of the battlefield. So the battlefield scene is actually spread out over 2 pages. The other thing that artists can do is they can use the entirety of the page for the artwork and have essentially one panel or no panels. And that's what Jeff Lemire has done with Tales from the Farm. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the panel. So just like I mentioned, you have Jeff Lemire, who on that particular page chose to show just one panel or one scene. And so what panels are, they're enclosed scenes of action or narrative. Pages can have just one panel, like the Lemire, or they can have as many panels that you can fit on a page. Artists even could go panelless, and they just fill up the entire page with artwork, and there's no border. It goes completely out to the margins. This page by Jessica Abel features 9 different panels. And it's really up to the creativity of the artists on how they want to lay these out. And sometimes they're doing this with a purpose, like this next page by Brad Walker and Andrew Hennessy. They wanted to kind of show this sped up pace of battle, and by slanting these panels, it kind of adds to this kind of frenetic pace of the battle. And so in this page from the Avengers, what you have is you have the Avengers battling Ultron, but by slanting these panels just slightly, it speeds up the pace on which you read it and how you kind of consume this content. And so that's just one of the techniques that artists use to kind of choose the way that they add their panels to the page. This next thing we're going to talk about is speech and thought bubbles, which is the literary aspect, the storytelling aspect of comics that drives the story by showing the characters either speaking or their inner thoughts. This page by Jessica Abel shows a male character speaking. When artists are showing someone their inner thoughts, it's usually a couple of dots with a cloud, and then their thoughts are inside that cloud. So sometimes these are also called conversation clouds, or instead of speech and thought bubbles. And like I said, once again, this is up to the creativity of the artist. If you're wanting to show a character speaking, you might add little spikes, or a character who is screaming, you might add spikes to the speech bubbles to show them that they're screaming, or maybe they have a unique voice. And then finally, the last thing we're going to cover is gutters. And so gutters are the margins in between the panels. And these are not usually utilized by artists, but are a leftover of the layout of the panels on the page. But just like the speech and the speech bubbles, artists can get creative with the gutters. If they're showing a scene of a large fire, the margins in between the gutters may be charred, or if there's a wave and something is getting flooded out, the water might be running in between the gutters of the panels. That is just some of the way that artists use gutters. For the most part, though, they're just a byproduct, and they're never really used by the artists. And so that's the end of this first video of the introduction of comic books and graphic novels. I want to thank you for watching, and please check back, because we will be adding more videos of our collections in the future.